right, so we're going to talk about the new TAR forms. They've all been updated. They're on our website. They're on Dotloop, DocuSign, Zip Forms. They've all been there for a little while. Where I like to go is to TAR. Just sign into your TAR account, and then for realtors and members, under legal and ethics, you have forms. And these are going to be the most recent forms. If you're interested, there's a document here you can look at or download. It's form descriptions and reference numbers. And this gives you the different forms, the numbers, and a quick description of how you use the form, which I like. It's under TAR. Don't know. Someone took the other mic. Okay.
All right, is that better? Good. I'm going to send Julie a quick. Go. Okay. Yes, go to texasrealtors.com. You want to go under the Realtor tab, Legal and Ethics. This will give you your blank forms, searchable forms. It also gives you this list I just showed you. And updated forms. So anything you're looking for, you can pretty well find it here. I like to go there quickly to pull up. Yes.
Sorry. I just have a quick remark about the changes on the forms. I know like last time during buyer compliance class, you had like made a whole list of like what the different forms were. But we recently got the Texas Realtors magazine in the mail, and they had like a really nice overview of all the changes too. And I wanted to show it to you, or like point it out that it's really cool. It has like all the different new forms and how it explains it too. So if you want to use that.
If you've got your Realtor magazine, take a look.
It's also on the website.
Yeah. Okay, well, the first form we're going to look at is the listing agreement. All right. Now you understand that our compensation can no longer be on the MLS and can't be on any website that is run by the MLS. So like showing services, that's an MLS product. You can't put your compensation on there. You can put it on your own websites only if you don't have an IDX feed from the MLS to your website, so it populates your listings. You can't have anything on your website that takes them back to the MLS either. Okay. So I've had people ask me about, well, if I put it on my website, can I put the MLS number with a link back to the MLS? No, that's part of the settlement. We can't do that. Where can you put it? Yeah.
On a marketing piece at your open houses.
You can. You can put it on your sign. There was a sample I saw, buyer's agents welcome, co-op agents welcome. You can put it on their flyers. You can put it on the what? On the key. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. We're going to look at a form that you could actually leave in the house that tells other agents if they're offering any type of compensation. Yes, sir. You can. You can put the amount any place but on the MLS or anything that's run by the MLS or fed by the MLS. You may have to give them a call. Yeah. Yes, they could. Could you have all the showings run through your assistant and your assistant tell them? Well, you can. Yeah, right. They're not licensed. So all they can give is information. The only thing with that I'm thinking is, have you ever dealt with an agent that says, contact me for showings, and how hard it is to get to them? And if, when you're using the showing time, showing services and everything, that's 24/7. So I can go on there and make an appointment today for next week, or when I'm getting up at the morning at 3 a.m., I could schedule a showing. And if my assistant's doing it, they're probably working an 8-hour day. Yes, sir. Yes. Can't use that one either. Nope. Because the MLS feeds it. Yes, you'd have to tell someone to go to that website. Maybe you put it on your sign with the link. Yes, sir. Your website cannot be on the MLS. Cannot if you're showing compensation on it. Yep. Agent only, KW Memorial /agents only. Yeah. That's where it is. That's what we're working on. Brandon's working on that. And they're talking about having an assistant that would put them on for us. We're still kind of, the jury's still out whether we could put like all of Keller Williams on one website. That's kind of out. They said in one part of the settlement, it says no. But we'll see. Okay. Any other questions about the settlement? And there are lawyers sitting out there waiting, and they have said they are waiting for this to go into place, and they'll be watching everything. The what? The fines for. Oh yeah, yeah. I can't remember how much they were though. They're pretty, like $800 to $1,000 for trying to get by and put something on the MLS. Can't have any attachments on there that says anything about compensation. I've seen a couple of things on different boards. Call agent. Yeah, contact the agent. Just don't, people are trying to find a way to work around it. Well, work around it outside the MLS. Hey. You can put it on your voicemail. But you're going to have a different voicemail, or you're just going to have a voicemail that says, go to this website. Yeah. But is that every single listing that you have? Right. Yeah, right. Okay. Okay, so the listing agreement. And you know, you must have a signed listing agreement before you could put any advertising. And when you say signed, it has to be signed by all parties. I received one the other day that already closed and the listing agent never signed it. So legally, we shouldn't be collecting a commission on that because we didn't have a listing agreement. That happened up in the Woodlands, and at closing, the seller saw it on the closing document, says, nope, I don't have a signed listing agreement. The agent never signed it. And he said, this isn't binding. I'm not paying you. And he did not. Yep. So the agent lost that money and the office had to pay the other agent. All right. So listing agreement. Who are the parties to the listing agreement? The seller and the broker. Listing agreement.
Yeah, seller and broker.
Yeah. When you're looking at sellers, especially lately, we've had some issues with fraudulent sellers. They're contacting us saying that they want to sell this property or this house. Usually it's already paid for. and they don't want to meet with you because they're out of town. So really do your research on those. And if somebody doesn't want to meet with you, let them know that it's a broker policy that you do a recorded Zoom call with their IDs. We find when we try doing that, people will say, never mind, and move on. If you have that happen to you, you can also contact the MLS and they'll put a note on the address. So when the next person goes, I think they'll get a call or they'll get an email to double check it. All right, so it's the sellers and the broker. We all know property, legal description, must have the complete legal description. So lot, block, section, river park, whatever it is, everything goes on there. Must have the city and the county. County is real important. And then known as. The rest of paragraph 2, improvements and accessories have stayed the same. Exclusions have stayed the same. Listing price and term. When does it begin and when does it end? With the term, this is when it begins. So if they say it's going to begin on August 15th, you can't put it coming soon on August 12th because your listing hasn't started yet. That's happened also. And if you look at B, if sellers enter into a binding contract to sell the property before the date this listing begins and the contract is binding on the date this listing begins, this listing will not commence and will be voided. Someone put it on early, they got a contract, it's a void listing agreement. So it cannot go on until that listing term. All right, now the changes. Paragraph 5. Most of what you're going to see in paragraph 5 is what we saw on the other listing agreement, except it was split between 2 paragraphs, 5 and 8. And you have it in bold. And this is something that the settlement said we had to do. Brokers' compensation or sharing of compensation between brokers is not set by law, nor fixed, controlled, recommended, or suggested by the Association of Realtors. MLS or any listing service. Brokers' compensation is fully negotiable. Brokers independently determine their fees. And complete paragraph 5A or 5B, not both. What they have also said is when we're talking about how much the seller is going to offer the other agent, they cannot be coerced. We can't say if you don't offer them, you're never going to get any showings, you're never going to sell this. That's coercion and it's against the settlement. Now, what are the benefits of having a buyer's agent? You're the seller. Why would I want to have a buyer's agent on the other side? Why would you as a listing agent want one? Yes, Sarah?
To show your property and to represent the buyer, so you
Okay.
can work with them and you don't have to work straight with the buyer.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, a buyer's agent is going to vet the buyer. How many of y'all as a buyer's agent will not show them until they have a pre-approval letter? How many of y'all as agents have been checked by the FBI and fingerprinted? Every one of you have. Is that a benefit to that seller who may have someone knocking on the door wanting to show their house? Yeah. You've got people that are trained, licensed. If they're a realtor, they have to abide by the code of ethics. You have to do your continuing education every 2 years. You have someone that is familiar with the association forms, and we have a lot of forms that are only for Texas realtors. They also have all the promulgated forms that TREC does, state gives out. And those are available for anybody to use. Anybody in the state can pull that 1-to-4 contract, fill it out, and take it to a seller. But wouldn't you want someone who knows how to fill it out, filling it out, and bringing it to that seller? Yeah. You have a buyer's agent who probably has a list of vendors. We all have a list of vendors, and you've probably vetted them. If they do a bad job, they come off of your list. So you know you're going to get good quality inspectors, roofers, whatever is coming into your house. You also have someone who's aware of the timeline. So they're going to be watching that timeline and making sure those buyers are performing where they're supposed to be. A lot of people work full-time, right? So it's hard to get a hold of that buyer during the day. If there's a buyer's agent, I can contact the buyer's agent and we can get things cleared up while that seller's at work. You have someone that's going to be monitoring title, scheduling the closings. And those are all benefits that a seller gets from having an agent on the other side. We need to be really good at selling our own value and selling the value that another agent brings to the transaction. All right, so 5A, broker's fees. What is this? A broker on the other hook for the transaction.
Sorry, I'm eating. I got typos.
No, okay. So 5A is when the seller is going to pay the listing agent and offer compensation, or the seller is giving permission for the listing agent to share the commission, right? So 5A1 is total compensation, just like it was before. So 5A, let's say 8%. Or if you're doing a flat fee, has anyone considered doing a flat fee? Yeah. You've got some of those. How much did it cost you to list a house? Does anyone have their number? $1,200. Okay. So how much do you need to make a profit? Probably double that. All right. So if you're taking a listing that's not going to net you what you need, maybe you take that listing because you want to help people and you charge them that flat fee where you're still turning a profit. We all want to turn a profit. And then 2 is how much of 1A are we going to offer to the buyer's agent? Just like it was before. What's the split going to be? Yeah, there's not going to be. Because the listing agreement and the buyer's representation agreement are contracts between the agent and the broker and the clients.
What was the question, Mitch?
I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it happen in this office where someone's taken 6% and offering only 1, so they're keeping 5.
Hey,
Okay.
Mitch,
Yes.
it's Julie. Can the people in the room that are asking questions or bringing up scenarios, can you guys please use the microphones?
Okay. While I
Thank
have you,
you.
Julie, can you find out what happened to the other clip-on mic? It wasn't left in the room.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, so 5A. Seller's going to offer us compensation. They're telling us it's okay for you to split that compensation or offer compensation to the buyer's agent. Any questions about that? B is when that seller is saying that they're not going to offer compensation to the buyer's agent. I will pay you, my listing agent, X% or a flat fee. What's important to remember about 5B is if it's intermediary. So if you put 3% on there or 2% on there, that's all the monies that the broker has to split between both agents. So if it's 2%, listing agent and buyer's agent are going to get 1% each, because that's all they said they would pay the broker. Confused yet? Okay. 5B is total amount the seller is going to pay the broker. Okay. We know if it's intermediary, there's only one broker. So all the monies that broker has to handle is whatever's in 5B. If there's $1,000 in there, listing agent will probably get 500 and the buyer's agent's going to get 500. Yes.
Why does it have to get split with the buyer's agent? If we've filled in the bottom saying 3% is going to the listing agent broker.
Listing broker,
That's not an agreement to share it with the co-op agent, whether
This
it's
would
with
be a
our,
co-op. This is a intermediary.
yeah, but we don't have to pay the intermediary agent. It's our listing. It's our 3%.
It's our broker's listing.
Uh-huh.
And in the buyer's rep, which we'll get to, it says how much is going to be offered there. And it's whatever's being paid to the broker.
But in the buyer's rep, they may have something signed saying that that buyer will pay that agent.
We'll look at
Separately.
that. We'll look at that when we get there.
But the listing agent's not going to get a share of that in intermediary.
No,
So that's really
But on the-
discouraging us
on
to
the
do with the
five-
intermediary then.
on the list, on the buyer's representation agreement, it says you'll collect it from the other broker or the seller first. If they're not available, then you'll. Is that better?
Yeah. Make sure you're.
Thank
considering
you, Brandon.
when you're putting that number in there, that if you do have intermediary,
But you don't know when you're taking the listing.
I agree.
You're
Well, you
not-
don't.
Not going to know. So now that means not only, in amongst all the other problems, I now don't want to show any Keller Williams listing or have any Keller Williams buyers see my listing. Because I might end up only getting half of what I thought I was going to get.
True. But then you're steering and putting our interest above everyone else's.
Force me to work for nothing. So.
Nobody can force you to work for nothing.
So, you know, I'm allowed to negotiate my fee. I don't understand how a buyer from the same broker gets to dip their fingers into my listing fee.
But it's
if
not,
I'm
it's the only thing we have to
negotiating.
remember is it's not my listing fee, it's the broker's listing fee.
But in the, agreed, but in the
Mhm.
agreement, that's for the listing.
Right. And in the agreement for the buyer's compensation, broker's fee when earned and payable X amount, source of commission, seller, landlord, or their agents. When it's co-op, when it's not, we only have one broker and that broker has only been given
3%.
A. Now, if this comes up, and I talked to Hubert about it, it's probably something we want to talk about the listing in. If they say they're going to do B, talk about it at the listing, and if it is intermediary, go ahead and have an agreement, and you can amend the listing agreement to say intermediary, they'll offer X for that. But the way this is written, the broker, which is going to be the listing broker, has this amount of money to work with.
Mitch,
Yes.
so in this scenario, I have a referral from a KW office in Mississippi.
Mhm.
And the clients have not filled out a representation agreement yet. I have not sent it to them. Or we're supposed to reach out, they haven't. So how would I complete the form as the agent that's now going to help them find their home? I'm going to be the buyer's agent with another Keller Williams referral.
Well, that's going to be the buyer's representation agreement. We'll get to that one.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thanks.
Yes,
Okay, so my question is, on this is for the listing.
this is
So
the
if we're
listing,
to B,
B. Mhm.
right? Well, if it's somebody in our office and they have a buyer's rep agreement with their buyer, shouldn't that cover their buyer's agent commission and this?
The way
cover
it's written,
the
it does
broker?
not. The way it's written, it does not. So that's tricky part. And this has already been sent up to the forms committee for some type of change to be made. It hasn't been made yet, but they are aware of the issue with this.
I didn't hear what was said, so was it important for us to hear?
Yeah, I wanna-
Is it not working? There
that's
you go.
better.
Okay, so my question was, if the broker is a B and you do your commission and then the buyer's agent is with your brokerage, but they have an agreement that has their buyer's going to pay their commission, shouldn't that cover the
N-
buyer side and the seller side? But he said
Yeah,
no.
not the way that it's written, unfortunately.
So Mitch, I have a question too.
Yes.
So, does
Mhm.
does this mean that we are gonna get paid one way or the other if we're working with a buyer? I mean, somebody, it will be the broker? The landlord?
If it's an intermediary and with the listing agreement, yeah, you're gonna get something. All right?
That almost, Mitch,
Mm-hmm.
that almost makes it disadvantageous to have intermediate.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You can always amend this. It can
And I
always
have
be
a
amended.
copy, on Marilyn's example. I
Mhm.
don't know if y'all were in Marilyn's class, but actually I'm holding the copy that she said that it's only filled out B, that they're gonna only pay the broker. And she put in letter A, 8%, and letter B said, if intermediary transaction, listing agent 4%, buyer agent 4%. So she said, she put it in there that I'll split
Yeah.
it. But I don't know, is that the year?
Well, when I talked to Hubert, he said, no, not to do it that way. Yeah, but we're gonna discuss it a little bit more. Because that's the
Mitch, I have
first
a
thing I
question.
thought is you could have 1% and B put X percent, like say 4% for the listing agent. And if intermediary, 8% to, or 4% to the other agent, something like that. Spelled it out, yeah, but Hubert was kind of against that. So we're going, I'm gonna talk to him again.
Mitch, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Mitch, just to go back to that,
Oh.
so let's say if we put 6% in A,
Uh-huh.
5A, we have to put 6% in 5B.
No, it's
We
A
leave it
or
blank.
B.
It's A or B.
A or B. If it's A, you're gonna do 1 and 2. So how much are they going to offer and how much of that have they said we can offer to the other agent? For a sub-agent, it's always gonna be 0. We're not gonna offer compensation to a sub-agent.
Taylor, you gotta talk louder.
What's that? Speak up, Belle.
I'm sorry. I said I had a question.
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to make sure that I understand B correctly. Can you explain it? So B's option is they're only paying me?
only
Is this-
paying you, correct.
Okay. And then A is I'm able to compensate myself and the buyer's agent, correct?
Correct. Uh-huh.
Okay. So
All right.
then the trouble is when they only have spoken about only paying me in option B.
Yeah, and the trouble with that one is if it's intermediary, only if it's intermediary. We really don't do that many intermediaries here. But we're still working on it. Just be aware at the moment. And this can
Okay.
always be amended. Yes.
All right, so let's say I do have a number in 5A,
Mhm.
and then we have a intermediary transaction. What
Mhm.
happens then?
Well, and since it's already says how much you're going to offer the other broker, then
But-
that's where that money's going to come from.
Okay, but there is no other broker because it is an in-house.
But you're doing a more amount, so we can take that half that was going to go to the other broker and pay it in-house. It's only when it's B where it becomes a problem. If there's not enough compensation in B.
Okay.
Mhm. All right, seller paying buyer's expenses. In addition to paying the above broker's fees, seller may be asked by the buyer to contribute an amount towards buyer's expenses such as buyer's broker's fees or other expenses payable by broker under a sales contract. This can be in paragraph 11F. This is buyer's contributions, or seller's contributions. Lawyers and a jury. The jury looked at it, and unfortunately, it's probably our own fault, though. We've had really good listing agreements in the state of Texas for a long time and very good buyer's representation agreements, but agents were not explaining them. And I know that for a fact because I've had people say, well, they never talked about that paragraph.
That's the problem.
So we need to be
talking about it, letting them know what our fees are.
Where there's a blank to put.
There's not to put it. Yeah. It's on another page. Okay. All right, let's go on. Paragraph 5. C talks about when it's earned and then when it's payable. You know, when they enter into a contract to exchange, option, or agree to sell the property, either individually or in cooperation with other broker, or the seller breaches. It's payable the closing and funding of any sale or exchange, seller's refusal to sell the property after broker's compensation has been earned, or seller breaches this listing or set forth in the rest of this agreement. So that's telling them when they're gonna have to pay, or when it's earned, when it's payable. Other compensation has stayed the same. Other fees and reimbursable expenses. Yeah, E3. If you have any other expenses that you're charging the buyer. In these expenses, with RESPA, you can't have reimbursable expenses for the photography. You pay $75 and you charge them $150. Can't upcharge on these expenses. And they need to be measurable, okay? Y'all know about protection period, 10 days. County.
When you said on other expenses, so meaning if we spend anything on a listing, so that means we can put there in case the listing
You
expires or
can.
they just no longer can't any cancellation. You can put anything you spend on that to
You
be
can.
reimbursed.
You can.
Okay.
You can. Mhm.
Thank you.
So is this where I'm gonna put my termination fee? Because I have an agreement.
That's where
If
you'd
they
put your
take it off the
termination fee.
market before it closes, they owe me this amount of money.
Yes,
That's what
that's
that
where
should
you'd
go.
put that. Mhm. I have my own feelings about if it doesn't sell, them reimbursing you for everything. It's kind of it's the cost of doing business.
So if I pay for a stager upfront,
Mhm.
I can put that exact amount in there to be
You could do
reimbursed.
that. So the judge said, she said if she pays for a stager, you could make that a reimbursable expense.
Okay, because I have heard that a lot of people put the termination fee,
Mhm.
but I mean, this is something maybe not related, but I heard that at the end, the client doesn't pay because it just costs so much money to start the legal process against them to make them pay. They don't want to pay.
That's
Right?
true. That's true. On the flip side, though, if they don't pay that fee, you don't terminate the listing, so they can't relist it. You may withdraw it from the MLS, stop your marketing, but it's tied up until the term expires. And we have an in-house attorney that will write a letter. You have a mic?
So this letter, the number, the letter F, so if like you calculate like expenses in case that you don't sell the house or terminate or something, right?
It's yes.
Okay, I just want, so in case they terminate, they pay you that amount.
They would have to
Okay.
reimburse it. And normally what I see and how I did it with my own listings, I said X% if they terminate it before the end of it. You know, you're not going to put it on the market for 30 days and then say, oh, I was just trying to figure that out. Well, then you're going to reimburse me and this is the amount. And I never said what it is, just termination fee. Of course, all of that comes to the broker. All right, paragraph 6 is the listing services. This very first paragraph that's bolded goes right back to clear cooperation. Notice regarding public marketing, if the property is publicly marketed, MLS rules require that broker file this listing with the multiple listing service within 1 business day. Public marketing includes, but is not limited to flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing, public-facing websites, social media, blah, blah, blah. And that's for us and the seller.
If they start publicly marketing their property, we have to have it on the MLS. We can have it on the MLS is coming soon. That's what they did for us. Any questions on, that's been the same for a couple of years now.
I got a question. You said if I did get anything reimbursed, it would go through the broker, but the broker didn't pay for the staging I did.
But it's the broker's listing.
So there would be a split that I would have to do with the broker based on staging that I paid.
I don't believe we charge that, no. It
would
just
just
has to
have to
come
go
through the
through the
broker, through the county.
This is a tough form.
Yeah, it has to flow through the broker, so nothing looks like it's. Yeah, no.
And
I think that's Bill. Yes.
And that would be a reimbursable paid by your broker to you. And so
Yes.
there, you have to claim that on your taxes, so you don't pay taxes on the reimbursable that comes back to you for the staging that you paid for.
Right. Get a good CPA. Yeah. Grab the mic. Grab the
Is
mic.
it best to have them pay the stager?
Hello.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to charge a retainer? Have you heard of anything like that?
Yes, I've heard of people doing retainers.
Okay, and that would be upfront, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of all different kinds of models. Agents doing retainers, agents charging a certain amount, and I'll show you 10 homes, charge a different amount, and I'll show you X number of homes, X amount, and I'll show you whatever you want to look at. So there's all different kinds of models. It's just up to us to figure out what's going to work best. Yeah, for the buyer side. It can be the same thing for the listing, though. If you're doing it on the listing, you're going to put it in paragraph 5, where it has that extra line. You'd put it in paragraph 7. No, paragraph 5. Yeah, I'd have to look at, we'll get over to the buyer's representation agreement. All right, so filing, seller instructs broker as follows. Broker will file the listing with one or more multiple listing services according to A. Broker will file this listing with one or more multiple services by the earlier time required by MLS rules or 5 days. HAR, our rule is 3 days. Everything is 3 days. So whatever you have in the listing term, you have 3 days to put it on the market if this is checked.
Mitch, I've always had this question. Is day 1, day 0? Is the day it was signed day 0, 3 days out? Or
I count it as the day it's signed as 0.
Me too. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just keep it consistent. So you have the day after and 2 days. Now, B is if it's not going to go on within 3 days. What's this?
So this means we took the listing, but we need to still do photos or clean up,
Yes.
etc.
Yeah.
So we would check
B.
we would check B
Mhm.
and write in a
How-
date.
How many days? Right.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And then you need the
And for the
hard
reason.
You still have to file HR 300.
You
if
still have to do the
if you
HAR
put it off more
300.
than 3 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and send that to the broker.
HAR 300 just tells them the benefits of the MLS. And they're saying, okay, I understand all these benefits, but I still want to get it ready. It's also a way to get them to do the stuff they said they're going to do. Mhm. Yes.
Coming soon considers as like putting it on.
Yes, that's putting it on the MLS.
Even if you don't have any pictures or.
Yeah, you don't have to have pictures. Does someone else have a question? And the broker could set a compensation. Broker can do that. You know, everyone always says, oh, you can't talk about compensation, can't talk about commission. Can we talk about it in this room right now? Yeah, because a broker, we're in the same brokerage. It's when it's outside of brokerages. And brokers can say, you will charge X amount.
Other Keller Williams I know of, they cannot negotiate their fee unless they get a permission,
Written permission.
written permission.
Okay.
So just know that, there are other brokerages that do that.
It's not in our policies yet. If y'all want it in the policies, let me know and I'll put it in there in October. But you can, it's like going to, I went to look at cars the other day. You know how they say, okay, I'll offer you this. Well, I really need to check out with my manager. And they go in the manager's office and they talk about lunch for a couple of minutes and they come back. So you could always say, hey, this is what I think. I'd love to do that for you, but I need to get permission from my broker. So you can come in and we're going to sit and talk about lunch and tell you, yeah, as long as you're not taking like, 0.5% on $1 million home. Okay, so how many days? 3, that works. 7 days. Oh, for not taking it on, putting it on the market. A lot of times I see a week. For get ready, take your pictures. And I was burned one time, and I see it a lot. You have the listing term starts today. It's on the market today with all the professional photography and staging. You're taking a big risk. Because what if they say, I've changed my mind. You've already paid for your photography. You've already paid for your staging. And you don't have a signed listing agreement. And it did. It happened to me one time only. Okay. And this is in bold here saying the seller will not publicly market it. 2, which I skipped, is if they don't want it on the MLS at all. It's never going to go on to the MLS. But with that, you can't public market. You can't call your investors unless they have a signed buyer's representation agreement or you're publicly marketing, and it has to be on coming soon. And unfortunately, there are lawyers here in town who have sued. That's why we got the 300. It happened several years ago. Okay, it talks about access to property, the scheduling company, whether or not you can put a key box on. Yeah, and someone else also said putting it on the lockbox if you're offering compensation. Okay, intermediary, yes or no? Are they going to allow intermediary?
It depends. If I gotta pay extra, no.
You just negotiate really well for that. If they're doing 5B, honestly, what we've seen is most sellers are still offering compensation on the other side. Washington State did this a couple of years ago, and their percentage is above 90% of sellers that are still offering compensation to the buyer's agent. Because you're showing them the benefits of having a buyer's agent. And if they have a buyer who's going to have to pay their own compensation to their buyer, well, guess what? They've dropped down what they can afford.
So Mitch, I have a question. So I am a buyer's agent. I already signed an agreement with my buyer. And you have a house. You're not going to give me anything. We are in the same brokerage. So I get 50% out of that listing agent's money plus what the buyer was
No.
supposed to.
Only what is on the listing agreement.
Okay, so then,
Okay.
It's null and void. Then the buyer's agreement would be null and void at that point.
It is, for intermediary, it's different. Okay,
Thank
we're still working on that. All right. We know confidential information, broker authority. Where it's changed is paragraph 11F. Seller does or does not authorize broker to share with other brokers and prospective buyers that seller will consider contributing to amount towards buyer's expenses, such as buyer's broker's fees, other expenses. Seller is not obligated to pay any specific amounts and has sole discretion to determine the amount seller will pay towards buyer's expenses during negotiations with the buyer. Use 1412 for that. Remember in paragraph 12 of the contract, seller's contributions, we put amount in there. This is the seller saying that, yeah, depending on the offer, I may negotiate to offer compensation. If they're not offering compensation in paragraph 5, but they're saying, yeah, bring me an offer and we'll talk about it. There's agents, broker in California that said, an EXP, I think is doing is it EXP? They're not offering compensation to any other agents. They're only negotiating for their own compensation. And then it's up to negotiate. That's what we're good at, right? Negotiating.
Mitch, so if I circle, so F, they do want to share broker's compensation. Isn't that just a repeat of what we put in section
Well,
5?
no, this could be for other expenses also.
Okay, so like for repairs,
Well, no, it'd be buyer's closing expenses.
buyer's closing expenses.
Yeah,
Okay, because
paragraph.
then when I pull up form 1412,
Mhm.
there is section A is a dollar amount.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what that dollar amount.
Well,
is
you're
going
going to be talking to them about it.
So is
And
this
it's
a
not, it's
document?
just to start out with. Is they can always revoke that. They can make it more. It's up to the seller when they get the offer.
I don't like it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they have added paper. Yeah. And
Let's say as a buyer's agent, I'm showing an EXP listing.
Mhm.
And obviously my client wants to make an offer. So they're saying they're not cooperating, but I can still submit my offer with the form for broker compensation.
you can still negotiate for your compensation. Yeah. The buyer can say, we're offering this much. You pay my buyer's agent.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I want it as a compensation, not as a concession, because then obviously that interferes with the loan, what they can get back and so on. and
There
so forth.
is a form and it's amendment, compensation agreement between broker and owner that you can also use and negotiate directly with the owner.
Broker and the owner, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to show that one to you also.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mitch, I thought EXP simply said the broker wasn't gonna share commissions. They're not stopping their agents from doing so.
I was on the call with, or it was a podcast with
Mhm.
the CEO of EXP. So they are not participating at all. They are training their agents though to prepare the seller that the buyers may request that.
Right,
That's-
okay.
That was pretty straightforward how they put it.
Yeah, you can negotiate it.
Yeah, they're going with the DOJ model is what they're going with.
Right. Yeah, DOJ. They're saying they don't want compensation anywhere. Yeah. You negotiate it on the buyer's rep with your buyer, you negotiate with the seller, they're each responsible for it. They're being fought on that. Yeah, this is just.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So they're saying no. However, I'm not listening to that. I'm still making the offer.
You're
and
still
I'm
making the
still
offer.
Using the form that you're gonna go with and try to get that
still negotiate.
compensation
Mhm.
from the seller, nothing to do with the seller paying closing costs so the buyer can cover it.
There's a form that you can negotiate it directly or put it in seller's contributions.
Which is what I don't want. Okay.
That's what you want to get away from. Yeah.
Right, okay.
And lenders have talked about that. Yes, sir?
I just want to ask about intermediary again. Again, you mentioned we are working on that. We are working on that. When you say we, are you talking about just our brokerage?
Our brokerage and the forms committee.
The forms committee that will.
TAR.
TAR.
Yeah,
why?
they.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm. All right. And then everything else is pretty much. Oh, I skipped paragraph 8, and I've had a lot of questions about this. Paragraph 8 says reserved. All they did is they did not want to have to renumber every paragraph from paragraph 8 down, because we kind of know what paragraph 9 is intermediary. We know that.
So they just put it as reserved. Someday they may fill something in, but right now it's just a placeholder, keeping consistent with the numbers. Yeah, so when your engineers ask, yeah, okay. All right. All right, so then you have your attorney fees, mediation, all of that, addendas and other documents. Anything you're adding with this, or giving to that seller, you're going to check in paragraph 19. Paragraph 20, the entire agreement. Paragraph 21, that statement that says that our fees are negotiable, that used to be in 21. They moved it to paragraph 5. Just bold it in paragraph 5. Okay. One thing I see missed is paragraph 21H, foreign persons, yes or no? Yeah, I see that missed. It's hidden in the paragraph. It'd be nice if they had it yes or no underneath it. All right, so that is the updated listing agreement.
Mitch.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, I'm not opening more worms, I promise. I just wanted to clarify because I've been tracking the EXP thing. They're not saying that buyer agents won't be paid. They're saying when they take a listing agreement, that won't be their conversation. You'll have to make that a negotiation of the offer, not their listing agreement.
Yeah, they're just saying that, Mr. Seller, understand, you may be off, they may negotiate for you to add these fees.
Right, and that could be a back and forth negotiation. We'll do it at 2% for this. Just in the way that we used to put 6% to split, they're saying overall it's a no. We're only taking our quote unquote 3%. But
Yeah,
when
they're only saying, Mr.
Yeah.
Seller, this is how much I charge. They're not even gonna offer any compensation to the other co-op agent.
You have to fight for it in the contract. Buyers and sellers will agree what you'll make or not make.
Yeah. All right, so. Doesn't sound bad.
Now that you said it like that, that really doesn't, that sounds like an easier conversation as far as a listing agent goes.
Right.
That was their purpose. That was why they did that.
The new president of TAR, he made a statement when this first all started. He said, why have I been letting another agent dictate my value?
The question is, how are they handling the intermediary situation then?
I don't know how they're handling the intermediary. So. And we won't even get into that. Okay. We're going to look at the 1412. Seller's authorization to release and advertise certain information. Paragraph 1 is seller authorizes broker to disclose to other brokers, prospective buyers. The seller will consider contributing an amount up to, and you put a dollar amount in there, however much they're willing to contribute. You don't really know. I know.
Can we put TBD?
No.
TBD?
Oh,
no.
Well, you can put something, it tends, for me, it's happening after we're already under contract. We've been getting feedback that the carpet sucks. So now the seller says, okay, I'll give 5,000 towards buyer expenses. And now we can advertise that. Instead of them dropping the price. And that was what they wanted to do instead of dropping their price.
Yeah, but this is for advertising before you're under contract.
Right, they're not under contract. That's just the feedback that they've been getting. And
okay,
instead of
this is
dropping the
when
price,
the seller may say, I'm willing to offer up to 10 grand for seller's contributions, and the buyer can use that how they choose.
Because this is a part of the listing
Agreement.
agreement document. So
Yes,
this
ma'am.
has to be filled out
Mhm.
and signed and dated, because Mitch is looking at those dates the same day that the listing agreement is signed.
Or they're quickly afterwards. Yes.
I mean, I have had 2 listings since this changes, but I
Mhm.
didn't fill this out. You did it?
Did they put in paragraph 11F, does or does not?
Oh, probably not. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's why. Okay.
This doesn't, it's not mandatory for use.
On our MLS, though, they have added a line for sellers' contributions up to, and you put the dollar amount in there. What they were trying to do is show that even though we're not offering compensation to the buyer, the seller is willing to negotiate it. I don't know yet. Some of these, we're going to have to get into it to see how it's going to work out. I've seen 10, I've seen 20, depending on the price already. This form's been around for a long time, though. They've reworked it. I love this form.
Mitch,
Love it.
if they fill that out and when you sign the lease agreement, then they change their mind, they want to up the amount or down the amount. Is there an
Okay.
amendment for that? Or just write a new form out?
No, don't have to do either because it says it's not, sellers will consider contributions. Yeah, they're not held to this.
So you can put a ballpark figure there.
You could,
Instead of TBD.
and when it comes down and they're offering, 3 times the asking price, they may go ahead and give that 20,000. But if they're dropping it by 100,000, you're going to get nothing. This form here is great. How many of you have had or been a buyer's agent and you call that listing agent and say, why are they selling?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you say?
I'm not authorized to disclose.
You can say nothing unless you've got authorization from your seller. You can ask them, what do you want me to tell them when this comes up? Because it's going to come up. Do you Google properties when you list them? Yeah, see what's out there. If there was a death on the property and I find that grandma died in the back room, it's going to come up. Mr. Seller, how do you want me to answer this? So you can put it on here. And that goes under B. That's they've given you permission to answer these questions like this. It can also be that their terms are negotiable, bring all offers, anything that they are giving you permission to advertise. Any questions about the 1412?
The items under B, does that go into the MLS or is that just for us to talk?
No, that's just for, well, sometimes it does because you've put in agent remarks, bring all offers or.
Seller is
That's what I was-
motivated.
Yeah, you could
We're
put
allowed
it
to put
there.
that in there?
Mhm.
Okay.
It's giving you permission to advertise those or answer the question. But not the price. No. No. That's one of the questions that we can't say negotiable. It's a no. All right, amendment to listing. If you have a listing agreement right now, instead of having to totally redo it, you can use this form. TXR 14004. Amendment to listing. Pretty much everything stayed the same except C and D. Broker's fee is changed to 5A, 5B, whatever it is. Other brokers represents the buyer, whatever it's going to be. This form is also what you'd use when they want you to cease marketing. There's a school starting, we're going to have a school party, so I don't want you marketing it for a week, or we see it a lot around the holidays. I don't want to be showing my house during the holidays, so let's take it off the market, just withdraw it from the market. Your days on market stops, but you still have the listing agreement. This is the 1404 amendment to listing.
Mitch, I'm confused about this form.
Okay.
You're saying if I had a listing that I took June 1st, the forms came out June 24th, I need this form, but none of my terms changed. How do I use this form?
I know.
That's why I was thinking I had to use the 2701.
Yeah, the 27, we'll look at the 2701 also.
Okay, I'll hold what I got. Thank you.
Okay. And then in F, this is any other paragraph in the listing agreement that you may be updating. So if you already have a listing agreement, you're going to put 11F in here. Does or does not authorize broker to advertise that the seller is willing to make contributions.
Mitch, if I have a listing that is under contract.
Paragraph 11F, when it talks about seller does or does not authorize us to say that they'll offer contributions. So if you're updating the listing, you'd put it in there.
Mitch, if I have a listing that's under contract to close in September.
Not
do I need-
necessarily. Sometimes the seller may tell you, like Tara was saying, they don't know. So they say, yes, I may offer something, but I'm not going to give you exact dollar amount. They can do that also. Yeah, I'm willing. Yeah, it's all negotiable.
Mitch, Julia's trying to ask you something.
Okay.
Julia Phillips.
Mitch, if I have a listing that's under contract to close in September, and do I need to do anything with the current listing agreement?
If it's under contract now, you don't have to do anything.
Okay, that's what I
Everything's
thought.
going to stay it was when it went under contract.
Okay, thank you.
This form here's good. I like it also. The 2701, right?
Right.
Yeah. On or about the date the client and broker enter into a Texas Realtors representation agreement. What's the effective date? A, all representation agreements, buyer's compensation and sharing compensation between brokers is not set. Listing agreements, client means seller, landlord concerning the following property, paragraph 8. Yeah, this is basically the same thing as the other one. You may like it a little bit better. It's really up
I
to
do,
you to
because
do.
I don't want to give my seller a chance to renegotiate a 6%. This just says they remove paragraph 8. We're telling you again that it's not fixed.
Yeah.
And negotiable.
This is the 2701. This is a brand new form.
Right.
Yeah, the other amendment, you can change any paragraph. This one here, it's just saying that things have changed based on the settlement. And by August 17th, we have to be in compliance. Bell's convinced me that we like this form. I think it's a little bit easier to use. 2701.
So Mitch, for our current listings, did you want us to use this form?
All your listings that are not on the most recent listing agreement dated 6/24/24, you'll need to have the amendment to listing or the amendment to representation. And this can be also used for your buyer's representation agreements.
All agreements.
On
right.
C.
That's how you get a yes from him, Shayla. Mitch isn't going to give you a yes.
No, I understood.
He's going to give you the rule.
There's all kinds. Yeah, that's what's fun. Nothing's black and white. Okay, 1417. This is the representation agreement. This form, we mainly use it when you have an unrepresented buyer. So someone comes in and they say, I do not want to be represented. I've bought 100 homes. You're going to always do the IABS because you're having a conversation, substantial conversation with them, and the representation agreement. So the property address, Keller Williams, your name, your license number. One thing also I didn't mention, but nearly every form they update it, on your signature, your printed name, it asks for your license number now. So you're going to be putting the broker's license number and then your license number on the forms. This is the 1417. See here on the amendment to listing, broker associates printed name if applicable and license number. I am. And then it says, who do we represent? Either represent the seller or we represent the buyer, and printed names. This is when someone's not represented. They've said, we don't want to be represented. We don't have anybody. Or maybe they come in and they say, I have an agent. I just haven't talked with them yet. Okay, you're still going to give them the IABS whenever you had substantial communication. This is the 1417. Yeah. And this. Yep. This is just letting them know, hey, I represent the seller. Don't tell me anything. Or tell me everything and I'm going to tell the seller everything. Or vice versa if you're representing the buyer and there's sellers not represented. Any questions about listings? And the 5 other forms? Yes, sir.
I don't have a question about listing, but I just want to confirm if I'm doing an open house, will
Just
I
a
need
minute.
to?
The listing agreement is the 1101. And the lease listing, it's the same thing when it comes to compensation. That's what's changed on there. It's going to look just like the 1101. Okay, go ahead. Who is that online?
Tina, I just have a real quick question about an open house situation. Am I not only supposed to bring the broker information, but also the 1417 now?
Not necessary. Yeah, that's only going to be if they start talking about making an offer at your open house. Just like with the buyer's rep, you don't have to do a buyer's rep at the open house because who do you represent when you're at an open house? The seller, right?
Seller, yeah. But if for some reason is it best to have it, I guess, is
Hey, I like to have a blank copy of that, a blank copy of the IABS, everything filled out on the bottom, and the buyer's rep, and maybe a 1 to 4 contract just in case. Yes, ma'am. You have a mic?
On the seller authorization to disclose and advertise, what number was that?
That is the 1412.
Thank you.
We're going to look at the buyer's representation agreement. Okay, with the settlement, you must have a buyer's representation agreement signed before you open a door. That's always been the policy. It's always been the policy. You have a written buyer's representation agreement. Now they're saying you must have it. Trek, it hasn't yet, and they've said they're kind of waiting to see how things go out, but there's a good chance that they're going to do a buyer's representation agreement and be mandatory by law. The settlement says that the buyer needs to know who you are and how much you charge before they start going into homes. Too often, I've talked about this before, I'll be looking at a transaction and I'll pull up the IABS and it was signed August 15th at 2 a.m. And then I get the buyer's representation agreement that was signed on August 15th at 2:05. And then I get the contract and it was executed on August 15th at 3 o'clock. You're a damn good agent. I mean, they don't even do that on HGTV. So remember, there are people that are going to be watching this. Lawyers are going to be watching it, and they're going to be making phone calls, unfortunately. This page, this thing has to be signed. The buyer's rep. Before you open a door. Yep. Not an open house because you're representing the seller. Yeah, you represent the seller, you represent the brokerage. Yes, this has to be signed before you show a house. If they're not represented, you're
Represented coming to your open house.
at your open house. No, open house, you don't have to do any of these. Then you have to have a buyer's rep.
Like a showing agent.
Well, you shouldn't be showing anything that isn't a client of Keller Williams Memorial. Yeah, so if you're in the showing program, you need to be asking whoever's calling you and say, can I see a copy of your buyer's representation agreement? Everybody. Yep, otherwise you can't open a door. And if you open the door, you're the one on the hook, not that agent who called you and said, would you open the door?
Yeah, I
Unless
think-
it's, no, unless it's their listing. Okay? If it's their listing, they're saying, Tara's saying, hey, got someone who wants to see my property and I know you live in Richmond, can you show it? She's got a listing agreement, so I'm representing the seller. I'm just opening the door. Yeah. But I know sometimes you get a call that, hey, someone just called and they want to see this and people run out. First off, running out to show a property is not the smartest thing you can do. That's how people get killed and buried in the backyard. Make sure you're given an IABS first. Okay, buyer's representation agreement must be signed before you open a door. Parties are going to be the client, the brokerage. Definitions. Acquire means to purchase or lease. Closing is when the sales transaction, legal title changes, blah, blah. Market area means the area of the state of Texas specified as follows. Be specific. There are 268,597 square miles in the state of Texas. You could put 13 states in the state of Texas. So that's 13 different licenses for those states. So TREC has said that the brokerage has to give you geographical competency. So what we've said, any place that Harris County, any county that touches Harris County. If you go beyond that, you need to have written permission to work in that area. Be specific. What does it mean when you say this address and around? Is that specific? No. You could put zip codes. That's great. Towns, counties, subdivisions. But this is the first time you've met me, and I want you to show me a house, and you want me to sign all of this. Okay. Well, how about if we put 123 Main Street? The single address you're going to show them. Or they've called you and they've said, I would like to see these 3 listings. Put those 3 listings there. Make it that specific. And you can always amend it. They go someplace else. You can always amend it.
They want to go to a different neighborhood, so you can.
Yes.
always do an-
You do an amendment. Can you have multiple buyers representation agreements?
Yes.
It all goes on what the market area is. And if it says Harris County or Houston and surrounding areas, and I've got one that says Richmond, Richmond doesn't touch Houston, so is it a surrounding area? Yeah, guess who's going to be determining that? A judge. Yep. So be specific, and it will help you when you're trying to get it signed. Okay, these 3 addresses. Someone have a question? Property means interest in anything. And then the term, this agreement begins on and ends on. Yes.
On the, you were talking about that, is there like just, say they want to go here and they want to go there and they want to go here and if days, follow, they want to go to all these different places. Is there an amendment we can just do?
Yes, there's an amendment to the buyer's representation agreement. We'll take a look at it. All right, if you go out and you show them these 3 properties and then the next day they're saying, hey, I'd also like to see these, well, do an amendment and maybe put the county at that point or the 2 counties. I remember a trainer when I first got my license using the script, if I like working with you and you like working with me, then we can always amend it. We can make it other areas, make it further. When you, if you're geographically competent in those areas, yes, you can, but you have to determine if you're geographically competent. There will be a quiz. And hopefully that quiz isn't given by TREC. Like the agent who was fined $6,000 and is now in a civil lawsuit because of it. All right, so the term. Again, maybe you put Harris County up here, because that's where they're going to go to several properties. And you put today and tomorrow. So you can do the term very limited also. Then you can get them to feel better about signing it. You're only going to be with me for these days. We can always amend it. And it says in here that you're going to get paid either during the term of this or when it closes. Okay. So use market area and term to try to get this signed. And you can let them know, hey, this is now a requirement. It's a legal requirement that I let you know what I do for you. I let you know what your expectations should be of me and what I'm going to expect from you, and also how much you're going to pay. I kind of thought about it. You ever been to the grocery store and you pick out everything, but there's no prices? You don't find out until you're at the register. Broker's obligations, use your best effort to find a property and assist them with negotiating in the market area. Client's obligation is to work exclusively with the broker to acquire property in the market area and not to negotiate and let everyone know that they're represented. Paragraph 7. This is your compensation. Again, it's the same paragraph as you saw in the listing agreement. That broker's compensation is sharing compensation between brokers, blah, blah, blah. You should have it memorized by now. Oh. Yeah. Broker's fees. When earned and payable, client will pay broker for purchases. Are you going to charge a percentage or are you going to charge a flat fee? If it's leases, are you going to charge a percentage of 1 month's rent? Are you going to charge a percentage of all the rents paid? Or are you going to charge a flat fee? Same thing we saw before on the other form. It talks about broker will seek to obtain payments of fees specified in 7A, first from the seller, landlord, or other agents. If such a person refuses or fails to pay broker amount specified, client will pay the amount specified, less any amounts broker receives. Now, we can take no more than what's written in here. So if you negotiate 2% and they're offering 8%, we can only accept 2% unless we amend it for that percentage. No, it has to be specific. Yeah, or a flat fee.
How do you do in rentals? You're gonna go to condos, and condos are usually not 50%. Some of them, they offer you 100%.
You can take no more than what's on your buyer's representation agreement.
But can you just, you're gonna show them, I mean, houses.
You can
but
amend
then
it.
They change, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Do
you
an
can amend it. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So Mitch, what if I'm already under contract right now with a builder? Do I need to just do this just in case it won't hurt?
Nothing changes if you're already under contract. Yeah.
Mitch, we still don't need a buyer rep for apartment clients.
You
no?
need a buyer rep for anything. If you're going to open a door, you must have a buyer's rep.
I think she means like apartmentdata.com when you don't go open the door.
No, no,
Yeah.
for that, if you're not actually opening a door, you don't have to have it.
Okay, and what if my client doesn't want to pay me and she only wants to see the houses for rental that the landlord pays the agent?
Okay,
What do I put here?
you're going to put whatever you charge. Yeah.
Because if I've seen a lot of leases are not offering any money at all.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some that are like $200, $2,500 still offer the buyer to $200. So you better put something in here and you're working for free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what we need to be explaining this. If such,
But what the difference is,
Okay.
okay,
you don't want to.
we don't work for free. Yeah, and there's some brokerages, we haven't done it yet, but if you work for free and you haven't capped, they're going to expect the money because it's the broker's money you're giving away. Yeah. All right, it's earned and payable, and client enters to a contract to buy or lease property in the market area. The client breaches the agreement. Broker's compensation is payable either during the term of this agreement or after it ends upon the earlier of the closing of transaction. Client breaches the contract to buy or lease a property in the market area. This would be after all the contingencies. You've gone through everything. The week before closing, your buyer says, I don't want that house. Well, our compensation is earned and they owe it at that point. If the client acquires more than one property, compensation is due on each one of those. Okay, got that? Now D, acquisition of broker's listing, intermediary transactions. If client acquires a property listed by broker, any compensation broker offers to other brokers in broker's listing agreement with the owner will be credited towards the broker's fee specified under A. This is where it says whatever, if they're not offering anything, we have nothing to collect. It's whatever's on the listing agreement, paragraph 5B.
Mitch,
Yes.
sorry, I was having a hard time with my speakerphone, but could you please explain, I think paragraph 7, when you said about something you can only take whatever that's written on there already? Is this
Yes.
new?
Yeah, if you put 3% on here for a purchase and they're offering 8%, you can only collect 3%.
Oh, okay. Oh, because we have to show the title company what we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
They are offering 3% plus BTSA. You're having to do an amendment to this because we cannot accept that. BTSA.
Yeah, you have to have permission to accept anything that's not written on here. I haven't got to there yet. Okay,
Would it be the same if it was backwards? Like you have a 3% agreement with your client and you show them a house and it's 2.5? Do you amend this or you just leave it as is? And obviously you're not charging your client that
that 0.5%.
0.5, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to amend it if you're not going to accept it.
Yeah, if you're not going to accept it, the right thing would be to do an amendment to it.
Okay.
And that protects the buyer also. So you don't want, you may say yes, but then maybe somebody else comes back and says, oh no, it was 3%. Where's the extra 0.5%? Do the amendment. Okay, notice regarding bonuses and other compensation. In addition to broker's fees specified under paragraph 7A, seller, landlord, or their agent may offer broker other compensations such as a bonus. If client purchases or leases certain properties, broker will disclose the specific amount of the compensation offered to broker. Broker may not receive other compensation unless authorized by client in writing. Client's authorization may be made by amending the agreement with the Texas 1505. That's where it's telling them if there's a bonus, you need to disclose it. And then we're going to look at the buyer's amendment to be able to accept that. And on one call, someone was saying they talked to them and, you know, if it's $1,000, you agree that I can take that. If it's anything above $1,000, I'll split it with you. If it's 2,500, 500. All right, protection period. Everything goes to the broker. Okay, protection period hasn't changed. Escrow authorizations, just give them permission for title to write our checks. Amounts payable in cash in Harris County, it talks about representation. If you're working with a relocation company, you can put the relocation company down here and give them 40% of your money. Have to just throw that little dig in there. Hey, but 60% is better than 0. All right, paragraph 9 is intermediary. Are they wanting to see property that are listed by Keller Williams Memorial? Yes or no? Letting them know that you do work with other clients, maybe showing the same property. You're not going to give any information to either side. Mediation, default, attorney fees, limitation of liability. Like I've said before, I think this paragraph here is one of the most important paragraphs. Now you have to have one before you open a door. But previously, if you did not have one of these, and it's the broker's policy, and that person stepped on a rusty nail, they haven't said that they're going to limit your liability. They haven't said they're not going to sue you. This says they do. If you don't have one of these and they step on a rusty nail and they're going to get a lawyer, guess what? It's on you. because the broker's policy and the TAR policy is you will have a buyer's representation agreement. I think that paragraph is worth talking about it. If you're, addenda, any addenda you're adding to this, you're gonna check off here. Yeah,
If you're signing a buyer's representation agreement with a tenant or a buyer, and they decide they're gonna bring somebody else along with them to tour the homes.
you're one paragraph ahead of me.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. Special provisions, Candace. If they tell you that they do not want to see any property that's not offering what's in paragraph 7, you can write it in here. Buyer wishes not to see any property that is not offering compensation to the buyer's agent. Yeah, that's when they're saying, I don't have the money to pay you, so I only want to see houses that are paying you. Now, with that, you're gonna have to be finding out before you show the properties, but you can write it in here. Now, best practice would be to let them know, hey, you want to see this property, but they're not gonna pay my compensation. So if you decide to buy it, you will be responsible for it. And then you say, no, I don't want to see it. All right? You have to have something in paragraph 7 or you're working for free. All right, in special provisions is also where you can put, I didn't bring the wording with me. Client takes full responsibility for any guest they may invite. In my other class, I have it written out. Client will take full responsibility and release of liability. I pretty much took this paragraph 15 and reworded it and put it in paragraph 17, letting them know they may want to bring somebody, but you're going to be responsible for their activities. If they get hurt, they can't sue us. They can't sue the broker, okay? Unless you trip them. Got it. You're just going to put it in special provisions. It's not there. For guests they bring, yeah, anyone that's not on the buyer's rep.
Mitch,
Yes,
you said when inviting guests to accompany you on showings, you agree to take full liability for their actions.
yeah, full liability and
broker.
and responsibility. Yeah, I'll have to look at the wording. I have it on another document. I didn't think to put it on this.
It's in his sample contracts, y'all, on.
It's in, oh, thank you, Bill. It's on sample contracts on the agents only. KW Memorial, look in there. Mhm. Yeah, so that can be placed in here.
That's when you're at the buyer's rep, like, okay.
Mm-hmm. You need to add that. And sometimes it's just best to add it anyway, because, you know, they're gonna bring auntie and mom and dad and they just show up exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a client. Oh, it was with the lease where it has how many days? And I think they had said 21 days. And my client asked me, can we put 14? It's like, well, the landlord's offering you 21. He goes, I don't want my in-laws staying that long. Can you put 14? Yeah. And yeah, they were fun. Okay. And then you've got the additional notice. Yes.
Since buyer tells us they do not wish to see any property that they don't offer commission, since the buyer tells us it doesn't consider as steering.
Exactly. The
Okay.
buyer tells you, you write it, they agree to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I say still let them know that, you know, this property you want to see doesn't offer compensation. Do you still want to see it? All right, additional notices. This is where they used to have brokers' compensation is neither set by blah, blah, blah. Then it talks about fair housing. You're not an inspector. Talks about the home warranty, residential service contract. When viewing property, client may be recorded or otherwise monitored. We've talked about that. Nearly all houses now have some type of electronic monitoring, so don't go in there and jump up and down and say you'd pay $1 million for this $100,000 home. Someone told me they only talk about the previous house. All right, and then broker's printed name is going to be Keller Williams Memorial 9000862. Then your signature, your printed name, and your license number. That was added to everything, and I noticed it's way down there. You kind of forget it. Any questions about the buyer's representation agreement? Yes.
You said paragraph 7 is where we have to put buyer's compensation.
Mhm.
Can I see yours? Oh, yours is different. Okay, you have a copy.
This is the most recent one. I got it off the website. Yep. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, but I changed my mind. No, the amendment to buyer's representation agreement, it's the 1505.
It's just hypothetical. I had a friend that told me we had seen some homes that were not offering buyer's compensation, and the seller would lower like the listing price, like for example, the
Mhm.
neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
But like the home was like
It-
$20,000 less.
So you would have to negotiate for your compensation on those. Yeah. All right, the amendment to the buyer's representation agreement on or about whenever the buyer's rep was signed originally. What's the effective date? When are we making the change? A is the market area. So if they say they wanted to see 123 Main Street only, and then tomorrow they say they want to see all these other houses in Harris County, change it to Harris County. Or if they're looking at Harris County and they want to cross the line to Fort Bend, change your market area. The date the agreement ends. So if you had it for just the weekend, you may want to extend it for however long after that. For Texas 1507 only, we don't talk about that form. I don't like that form. D, this is going to be for your listing agreement or for your lease buyer's representation agreements. The 1501 buyer's representation agreement. Broker's fee and 7A are changed too. This would be when you go out and maybe they're only offered 2.5% and you're not going to ask your buyer to pay that 0.5%. So you could change it on here. Same thing with leases. And then in E is for your bonuses. So you find out they're offering $2,000 bonuses. This is where you're going to go back and get the buyer's written permission. In addition to broker's fee and listed in paragraph 7A, broker will receive other compensation from seller, landlord, or their agent in the amount equal to the dollar amount. Client purchase or leases the following property, and then that property's address. So it's specific to the one property. Cool. And then F would be when I've never seen anybody use this. Tell me if you have. When the buyer says, I want to stop seeing homes for a little while. Most of the time, they just don't return your phone call. And then any other paragraph that you may be changing in the buyer's representation agreement, you could put it in G. Easy peasy. It's probably one of the easier ones.
Would there be a checklist to remind us about these forms?
We do have our checklist. Yeah.
Would it be updated?
It's been updated.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I've lost hair since June 24th. All right. In a nutshell, discuss buyer tenant representation agreements. Have the buyer sign one before you open a door. Begin your showing property and offering full services. Let's see. Negotiate. Let them know how much you expect to be paid and that we're going to try to get it from the other people first. If not, they will owe the difference.
And then let them know that bonuses are negotiable. You're going to let them know they must give you written permission. Okay. Okay, now we're going to look at the 2402. Okay, we can do 01 first. Okay. Compensation agreement between broker and owner. So who's the owner of the property? Broker. What's the property address, legal description? This is the 2401 compensation agreement between broker and owner. Asking price, owner is presently asking blank to sell or to lease. And then who are you representing? Who are you bringing to this? This agreement begins on X date and ends on X date. This one's kind of been hard to answer questions on because we haven't been using it yet. We've talked about putting 60 days on there, 30 days on there. So the time you'd be going under contract. Broker's fee. Owner is not obligated to pay a broker's fee until such time as broker fee is earned and payable. All of that is listed in the representation agreement if you need to go over it.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Going back to 5. So this is this, so this, I am the buyer's agent and I'm making an offer, submitting this with the offer, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm putting my seller hat on, and if I put 60 days here, or even 30 days
Mhm.
as a seller, I don't know if I would take that. Because then you're saying, I'm gonna hold you to this for 30 days. What if the offer doesn't pan out?
Doesn't
What if
pan
I
out.
don't, yeah, what if your buyer's offer
Mhm.
is not what I'm looking for? So. the
Mitch,
date-
I
so
think
the
this was
date here-
between the buyer and the listing agent and the broker, not the buyer's agent and the broker.
This one is the broker and the owner.
Right, like it's a listing agreement without going on MLS. The buyer in their contract, they would just be a prospect named in this.
What? What'd she say?
I'm sorry, speak up.
I'm
Please.
saying, I think this is the one that used to be a registration agreement between a broker and owner, between a listing agent and an owner, where it won't go online. They already got a buyer in mind, if and only if they buy this house. This wouldn't be something a buyer's agent would have.
Yeah. Well,
It would be because if you're showing an
Mhm.
EXP listing and EXP is saying they're not gonna do co-op, then
Yeah.
you are responsible to negotiate your part of it with the
Compensation.
owner, right?
Mhm.
So then this is the form that would apply.
That would have applied.
I think that's the compensation, a different one. I'm sorry.
Now there's the addenda that's gonna go with
Yeah.
it. Okay, we'll
So
look
can
at
you
that.
use the addenda instead of
You
this?
can use the addenda instead of
I
this.
have to.
But yeah. We now have a couple of forms that kind of do the same thing,
That's so true.
just to confuse you. Yeah. Yeah, we have gone back and forth, Maria, with the term here, and I don't know yet. After we get into it, we may have a little bit more. Then it talks about what percentage of the sales price or the flat fee. Has the same thing for leases. Who will the broker represent? This is the form that we use for sale by owners most of the time. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll look at the 2402. That's okay. Compensation agreement between brokers. 2402. Compensation agreement between brokers. All right. This is the form that you can use when you're calling that other broker and they're telling you that I'm offering X percentage. You send this over to them and get it signed. It's agreement between us and them.
Listing agents, this is the form you may want to leave in your listing. So it shows them, this is what we're offering. So the principal broker, cooperating broker, the address of the property, registration, who's the client that they're bringing, cooperating broker's fees, when earned and payable, percentage, flat fee, or if it's a lease. Talks about related parties, so if they bring their brother in to buy the house, you're still getting your commission. This is a nice, I would not do this for every single house you're showing. I would do it when they tell you, hey, I'm really interested in this one. When you're doing your due diligence, maybe you send this over and get the other broker to sign it. If they've told you maybe verbally that we are offering compensation, this form can be used. It's agreement between brokers. Norbert?
So Mitchell, just going to be clear on this. So if I understood some of the other, I guess, conversations that I've had, so this could not go in attachments in the MLS, correct?
Cannot.
Cannot.
Nope.
Right. So it cannot go there. But you said we could leave it in the listing. So you mean the physical home?
In the physical home, yeah,
Okay.
like leave it on the countertop.
Now, what would stop me from just saying, hey, you know what? Buyer, agent, compensation 3%, putting a stand in there that says that. I mean,
That's fine also.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is that less complicated than this?
For a listing agent, it may be. As a buyer's agent, I'd probably want to get this signed just to lock it in. Basically, this is what the MLS used to be. Because you're
Right,
getting
I
a lot
would
of
want to
agreement.
get this in writing because we did have a situation where a team, the mom showed the house and they asked what the compensation was. They said 3%. The daughter called and said, hey, what's the compensation? He said 2%.
Yeah, no, so, and I get that part. So then I guess already, it'd be smart from my end as a listing agent to say, here, seller, go and sign this, because I'm assuming this has got to be signed, or is it by the broker?
It's by the brokers.
By
It's
the
only
broker,
signed by
so then-
brokers.
Send it over to Michael and say, here, sign
Mhm.
this, and then just send it out as people ask for it.
Yeah. As a representative of the broker, y'all can sign this. Doesn't have to be the broker.
Yeah, I think this one we're gonna use the most as listing agents.
think so.
People are gonna ask us for this, so I would train your VAs to just have this filled out
Mhm.
and have it in your loop. So when people call, then you just send it out.
Just be sure to fill in the client's name. Ask them for the client's name. Yes, this is agreement between brokers. Mhm.
What is she
No.
saying?
This is not a buyer's or a seller's.
Yeah, this is just agreement between us. You're still gonna put it in for compliance, though. Yeah.
So this takes place in what you said. But this is the only proof we have.
Mhm.
So then we take this and we do our DA, and that's a whole nother situation for how we're going to do it. Title company's gonna need-
Yeah, okay.
So that will go when you're making an offer. It will go right with the
Yeah, well,
agreement.
no,
No?
this is probably something you're gonna get before you make an offer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is something, it's just getting it in writing so that me as a listing agent, I can't change it to 1% tomorrow when I promised you 3% yesterday.
Okay.
It's like you have it in writing.
Okay.
Yeah, the other broker will have to sign it also.
Thank you.
Well, and I've got now, I mean, I hate going down the what if game.
Mm-hmm.
What if for whatever reason, I mean, the seller said, hey, you know what? I saw these two other homes, or I found out that they're listing at lower just because it's their neighbors and they all talked about, they colluded amongst themselves, right? The sellers
Right.
did. And say, I want to change that. Now, if I
Okay.
want to go down to 2% like my neighbor did. If these are out there, how does that?
Maybe you do a very short term for it.
Well, I'm saying if.
No,
the
this
sellers,
is
you know,
saying the
'cause if they
seller-
collude them amongst the sellers, like if I know my neighbor just put the list, oh, what are you paying,
Mhm.
right? I mean,
So they would have to get with the listing agent and amend the listing agreement. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe it's 30 days or something, but make it small.
And Mitch, can I say
Yes.
that to my seller that colluded, we can definitely change it in 30 days, because we already have
Yeah,
bubble out saying that we'll pay X, Y, Z.
all right, so that's we've got between the broker and owner and the two brokers. Yes, sir.
So this happened to me once where the listing broker or agent changed the compensation, but I had
The MLS.
printed out the MLS before and he made on it. What is, so if you go into a house and they say, we are giving 3%, take a picture of it, is that legal? I mean, not legal, but will that hold up?
I doubt if that would cover you.
That would.
I don't think it
You
would.
don't think it would? So
I
they
don't
can
think it
change
would.
it without noticing.
Yeah, well, that's when you'd get this form.
And
Get
it's
that
not
agreement
like
between
we
broker.
can, yeah, and it's not like we can say, oh, let me see your listing agreement.
Right.
Yeah,
So
no,
this
but
is-
if they publicize it in the open house or in the
Mhm.
showing of it, and you take a picture of it, and then
Yeah.
they can go ahead and change it anytime they
That's
want.
why I would get the agreement between brokers. So they're saying, this is what we're gonna offer it. This client makes an offer, executes a contract in this many days.
Okay.
Well, the IABS, this is gonna be, this is between brokers. You have to give a IABS. Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not? All right, now, this is the addenda that's gonna go on the contract. All right, so we've got it in writing from broker to broker that they're offering to pay compensation to the other broker. Or we have it between the broker and the owner saying that they're gonna pay compensation. So this is gonna be added to the contract, so you're gonna have to add it in other in paragraph 22. This is the TXR 2406. So property address, cash fees as specified in this addendum will be paid in the county. Listing broker's fee, seller shall pay listing broker the fee specified in a separate written representation agreement between seller and listing broker. D, other broker's fees will be paid as specified below, and buyer shall pay any remaining amount due to the other broker under a separate written representation agreement, the buyer's rep. Okay. Number one, this is the listing agent. Same paragraph 7 of the listing agreement, they said they're going to split it. So listing broker shall pay X or percent of the sales price contained in a separate written compensation agreement between listing broker and other broker. 2, seller shall pay X percent or a flat fee of the sales price as contained in the separate written compensation agreement between seller and other broker. Be that one we just talked about. B, flat fee or percentage of sales price towards other broker's fee. Note this, use this option only if there's no separate written compensation agreement. All right. You didn't do either one of those agreements, but you went ahead and you negotiated it, and the seller says they'll pay it. Then you'd put it on here. Fast track. Yeah. I know.
So we talked about compensation on the.
On the contract, yeah. This is what you're adding. Yeah, you're gonna negotiate it and you're gonna, this is an addendum to the contract. Who's gonna pay? Well, it's not gonna be on the contract. There's no place on the contract that says how much our compensation is. Yeah, that last page, it says 3% or X percent, whatever.
Yeah, this is just takes place at the last page.
Yeah, pretty much. Your title company knows. Yeah, this is only used when the other broker or the seller are paying compensation to the buyer's agent. This is, yeah.
Yeah, this is the buyer's agent. This is putting everything, adding it to the contract. If the buyer is going to pay you directly, you're not going to use this. Most likely, title's going to want to see your buyer's representation agreement. And then it's going to be on the CDA also.
Mitch, question.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not using this again in a builder situation if they're paying the buyer's agent. I wouldn't need this form, would I?
If the buyer's agent's paying, the buyer's paying the buyer's agent, no.
If the builder is paying.
Right.
Oh, if the
Thank you.
builder.
Right.
Well, that would be, well, it depends. That's a coverall. It depends. A lot of the builders contracts I see, it's in the contract. So if you're using the TREC promulgated, then you would use this form.
Okay. Thanks.
That's still there at the moment, but that is not part of the contract. This will be part of the contract. Okay. I was saying, Tara, that a lot of your builders contracts have it in there. This would be used if you're using a TREC promulgated contract, either the incomplete or the complete. Okay.
Is number 2 seller shall pay for sale by owners? Because I'm confused between the wording listing broker shall pay and seller shall pay.
This is when the seller has already negotiated it that they're going to pay. This is when the seller says they're going to pay directly out of their proceeds. Well, no, well, right now, the way it works is it's going to go to the broker, and then the broker is responsible for splitting it out. Title does that for us at the moment. Yeah.
So
Mitch,
is this the document that when we write an offer by our agent, we
Mhm.
write an offer and we've already asked them what they're paying,
Yep.
so we fill this out.
Yep.
So we send this with the
With the
contract
contract and add it to paragraph 22.
and add it.
Ties
okay.
it to the paragraph.
And then
to the
this
contract.
will be part of the contract that's sent to title company so they know how to pay us.
To do everything. And they're still going to want a DA. Yeah.
Right. And then where do we put if we have repairs? So we've got a contract, we've signed off on it. We're now going to do repairs and negotiate.
You
for
have a
repairs.
amendment to the contract.
Amendment to the
This is
contract will take
addenda.
care of repairs.
Yes.
Et cetera. Okay.
Question. Why is this form signed by the seller and not the broker if the broker is the one agreeing to split?
Well, it's the seller's money.
But the listing broker has agreed to split,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not, I mean, I understand where the money's coming from,
Mhm.
but it's
Yeah.
being offered as a co-op, or what we used to call co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Can we say co-op anymore, or we can't say co-op anymore?
We can say co-op anymore.
Oh,
Yeah, we can still say co-op.
okay.
Listing broker shall pay X% of the sales price as contained in a separate written compensation agreement between listing broker and other broker, like the 2402. So I guess this also be used when the buyer has said the seller has said they're not going to pay anything. And then they negotiate to offer me, listing agent, more compensation. And then I'm going to split that.
Can you clarify number 2, seller shall pay? Because the way I understood
It's not
it
going to
was-
go through the broker.
Okay, it's gonna come straight to the agent.
It's going to come straight to agent. It's going to be straight out of the seller, which it always has been. Yeah, but since it's no
Mitch.
longer, yes,
Question for you. So are we basically playing this day to day and to see what kind of screw ups happen and then we're gonna be
Yes,
changing
sir.
forums again in September?
yes, sir.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go leave then.
okay.
Mitch, I have a question.
Some of
Mitch,
it
I have a
is, we're going to have to get in and start using them and see how it works out. Yeah, there's a lot of new addendas and amendments.
I have a question.
Yes,
It says addendum controls if part of this addendum conflicts with the provision in the contract, this addendum will control. That's my first question. We're gonna find out later what that means.
addenda controls, if any part of this addenda conflicts with a provision in the contract, there's nothing in the contract right now. Unless someone wrote in special provisions. Yeah,
And then it says listing broker will pay. Is that to keep the listing agent and broker honest? Like they can't say they're giving 2%, but now the seller will see, no, you asked me for 3 for the buyer.
yeah,
And
this would be binding.
this is the check. And this looks like what EXP would have to use.
Yes,
The seller to pay directly, be that they're not paying.
yes. Carlos?
Clear.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. It's, contributions will still stay there. No, they're not gonna have it. You're not gonna know paid to the other broker. Yeah, appraisers have talked about that. Are they gonna just automatically subtract 3% from everything when they're doing their comps? You don't know. No, the closing price will still be there. Seller's contributions will still be there, but you won't know what percentage was paid to either broker anymore. Okay, broker lawyer committee a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about this, and Trek is trying to decide if they're going to weigh into everything. Of course, they're for the entire state. This is only affects realtors. Right now, they've said about removing it from paragraph page 10. They've also talked about removing paragraph 8, where it says that it's held in another in the MLS or something like that. They've really said that they're going to wait and see how things work out with the TAR forms. Okay. The TREC Commission meets in a couple of weeks. We'll see what they have to say. The end of the month on the 24th is the Texas Association of Realtors meeting. I'll be attending that. And I know in the spring, unlike other years, there was a lot of TREC presence there. So they were asking questions and answering questions for us and trying to get a feel of what the market's doing. After I come back, we'll see what I learned, or I may just be more confused than I am already. Grapevine. You want to go? Okay. All you have really for the TAR, it's $75 to go. Yeah, there's a couple of things you'd pay more for, like if you want to do the dinner or the when they're installing officers, you can pay extra for that. And there's a tree pack thing. But just to go and get credit hours, it's about $75. Then you pay for your room. Yeah, it's just past Dallas. It's at that big hotel that's up there. Should be fun. It was fun in the spring. All right. I hope it cleared up at least one thing for you. Everyone's gonna get sued. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can grab my card from the front desk. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We don't talk about the short form. We don't. We're not going to here. We're finished. If you have questions about the short form, I'm going to take a quick look at it and let you know what our feelings are. I think we're going to use more of the broker between broker, because I really feel like sellers are still going to be offering compensation. And the listing agents I've talked to since this change, 624, people are still offering it. Okay. The short form,
This is between the parties. And appointments, definitions, same thing with the market area. Thank you. Broker's obligations, showing service, paragraph 6, 7, and 8 do not apply. Broker will. This is saying that you're going to give them minimal duties. Minimal duties are written on the MLS. Not on the MLS, I'm sorry, on the IABS. So you're going to be fair, you're going to give them material facts. And then it talks about what you're. Now, if you're just doing the short form, they're going to pay you a fee up front. So they want to go see this house, you're going to charge them however much to show that one house. And that's all you do. Okay, what I don't like about it is that there's no indemnification on here. Nothing says you're going to write an offer for them. Nothing says you're going to give them a CMA. You're doing minimal duties. Yeah, literally just opening a door. But they have to pay you first. And that payment has to come to Keller Williams. You can't take it yourself. So we're going to have to, we don't even have a Zelle account right now. That's why we don't like this form. I don't like it for the indemnification, so many things. Thank you.
I don't like it either.
Oh, for apartment. Oh, yeah, for leases. Uh-huh. Yeah, well, on the lease. Okay. Thank you.
August 14th, we get to do it all over again. Thanks, Mitch.
I'm gonna try and pull it up right now.
Thanks. Hope I didn't confuse you too much. Yes. No. No, you have to let them tell you that's okay. Yeah. Yeah. These are the benefits of having a buyer on the other side. Do you, out of this percent that you're going to pay me, can I offer X of it to the other agent? Ay, ay, ay. Okay. Go to agents only. If you come down to compliance, sample contracts. Here's the residential buyer tenant representation agreement. There's where it's filled in. Paragraph 11, when inviting guests to accompany you on a showing, you agree to take full liability for their actions. Client/guest will hold broker, any other broker, their associates harmless for any such injuries or losses. There it is. And you can look at, I also have the contracts in there with what's commonly put. No, this is the buyer's rep. This is the long form. And this is the one that's on agents only. Okay? Yeah. Oh,
When we were looking at the short form,
Mhm.
did you just say that we would just open doors, but you didn't like how it wasn't gonna identify them, and then there was something else that you said.
they have to pay you first.
They have to.
They
pay?
have to pay you.
That's part of the brokerage.
Yeah, well, that's part of the agreement that there is a fee for that. Yeah, and also with that, if you, let. No, that's association rules. It's, I think we're gonna have to get out there and use it.
It's like anything.
Yeah. Yes,
To test our.
your savviness of, I think it's like two Fridays from now. It's on the calendar. It's too far. Okay. Marilyn is doing a class just on the buyer forms on the 14th. Yeah.
So see if both.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's getting better with those questions. I think people are starting to understand. Yeah. Yeah. Also with that short form, there's a fee they're going to pay. And let's say you put on there $500. If you write a contract for them, you're only getting $500. Yeah, we don't like it. Use the long form. You use the long form. I showed you where you can do for market area or for term. Do one day, do the weekend, do 1 or 2 properties. No, you're getting paid all at closing.
But what if, are we allowed to do this? Like you charge per house and if they do not buy, they will pay?
It's up to you. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody online. If you have any questions, I'm here. But I'm going home for a beer right now.